let's go back to 8 years old, an Amherst boy growing up and being a ball boy for John Calipari at the University of Massachusetts. Was that experience for you? Did that maybe light a fire for you, or was that just something neat to do on Saturdays?
No, I mean, it was a unique probably moment in my life. My dad worked at the university for 40 years. So I kind of grew up on a campus. I went to preschool there. I was kind of home. I was a ball boy, and kind of at that time he was building the program up. I mean, I was young, but I had unbelievable access to go to practices, stumble into the locker room after practice and just kind of heard and saw things. And, I had a great passion for that environment. Now, as I got older, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be in the game. And then once I got a chance to get into coaching, it made all the sense, all the kind of dots connected for me, because I think everything that I saw, that I heard, it created a unique spirit in me. And I said, that's what I really want to do. And, I'm forever indebted to guys like Bruiser Flint and JB Bickerstaff, his father, Bernie Bickerstaff, Frank Dunphy, kind of lighting that fire in me and getting me going. But it definitely trails back to those early days, wiping up sweater, just kind of being in the gym, being a sponge, and seeing guys like Harper Williams fly around, and Marcus Camby and Rayford Giles and all those kind of guys back in the day.
When your playing career ended and your first stop was with the Hornets, how does a kid fresh out of college get a job with an NBA team? And so much about this job, as we know, is about relationships and so on. Was this somebody you knew, a favor, or was it just a resume that grabbed somebody's attention?
No, and I'm probably dating myself a little bit. It was that they're actually the Bobcats back then, and that like a little window.
Oh, sure, okay. In Charlotte.
Yeah, I didn't have the relationships then that I have now, but I figured, I need to kind of create my own reality. And I jumped in the car, put on a suit, and I thought, it's a new franchise. They must need new people. And, I walked in, and I literally, as I was walking in, Ed Tapscott, who was the president of the team at the time, was walking out. And I introduced myself, and I knew his face. And I just said, hey, I'm looking for an opportunity. He had me talk to a guy named Steve Swatoa, who was the director of sales and marketing. And I wanted nothing to do with sales and marketing, but it was an opportunity. So I took it. And eventually that led to an opportunity to work in with the basketball operations group as a staff assistant. And, I think sometimes you got to take a chance on yourself and just show up and see what happens. And luckily I did that. And that kind of was the infancy of this kind of crazy opportunity and woven career of relationships and people and opportunity and a lot of luck. And I'm thankful for all that.
Is that your personality, to just throwing the suit on and I'm going to go knock on the door and make him tell me no? Or are you scared to death on your way to Charlotte, just hoping this thing works out?
I've always kind of like try to see, okay, what's the problem, or what's the opportunity, and then how do you make it all work? And I just got in the car, and I actually remember getting there, and I was like, shoot, I've been driving for 6.5 hours. I guess I should shower. And I snuck into a hotel and took a shower and put my suit on and just try to represent myself the best way that I could. And I think I learned a lot about how you show up is so important. And I think people saw that I belonged in that world, just where I had to figure that out. And, over time, guys like Carl Hicks, Ed Tapscott, Frank Rawls, JB Bickerstaff, they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And it's been an unbelievable journey for me, for a kid that, made one bucket in college basketball as a walk-on, to see the career grow to living out a dream as a head coach here at the University of Albany.
What does a video coordinator do for an NBA team?
Yeah, back then it was a lot. You did film exchange, you're mailing film sometimes, you're uploading stuff. Everything's advanced so far, but you cut a lot of film. You did a lot of projects for coaches. After games, you broke down ball screen reads and some of the offense, and halftime coaches would have you prepare edits to show the team. So it was a little bit of pressure back then to make sure you had stuff done. And I just try to make myself available to everybody, try to make their job easier. So some days, you're working on film. Other days you're, a body at practice to, reverse the ball or set screens. And, what happened though, you get a chance to be in meetings and be on the court, and you're just learning. You're just hearing things, and you're trying to learn as much as you can. And, luckily for me, they let me wear a lot of hats. So, I was picking up free agents at the airport. I was sitting in meetings, and Michael Jordan's running a meeting, Bernie Bickerstaff's running a meeting. I'm in the room, I'm not saying a word, but I'm in the room. And I think, you get a chance to learn a lot from that perspective. And that's high level stuff. I mean, those are $1 million transactions and $1 million decisions. And you're growing a franchise back then. It was an awesome thing for a young 23, 24-year-old to kind of hear and process and learn.
I had a coach once tell me that sometimes we make basketball more complicated than it needs to be. You're just trying to score and you're trying to stop the other team from scoring, but you're getting a master's level education, maybe a doctorate level education right out of college with this NBA franchise for 3 years. What was the biggest takeaway in your time there that maybe you're able to use even now as a head coach?
Yeah, Bernie Bickerstaff and a guy by the name of Kenny Williamson, who is since deceased, but he was our director of scouting. They talk so much about loyalty in our business, which I think, it's hard because everybody's craving for an opportunity. There's so many resources that are given to you. And I think sometimes that gets lost. And they talked about how important that is. And we had an amazing circle of people that we worked with and that were so loyal to each other. I thought that was really important. I think, the other part that was really important was the management of people and how you treat them. I thought was really important. I mean, I watched Bernie. He treated the assistant GM all the way down to the janitor the same way. And it was created such a unique atmosphere. And then, I'd say the last thing, really clear and had a lot of clarity in like vision and goals. I think everybody understood it. Everybody knew it when I was there. Everybody understood what their role was and what we were trying to do. And we talked about it a lot. We challenged each other a lot. I got challenged. And I was the lowest man on the totem pole, but I got challenged by our GM some days, which was great. And then in those same meetings, as time went on, you got a chance to challenge the other people because we were trying to find the best version of ourselves. It's like now you get together at weddings and things like that. And it's like a family that we created because of the environment that Bernie had created back then.
Well, after 3 years there in Charlotte, Fran Dunphy takes over at Temple in 2006. And you joined, I guess, as a part of the basketball ops department at that point. But what lured you away from the professional game and back into Philly at that point?
Yeah, I think that's where kind of the genesis of like me understanding relationships came in. Frank Ross was our director, our scout for the Bobcats, and Ed Tapscott, who was the president of the team, and Carl Hicks, who was our assistant GM. They all worked together at American University. Frank was a player, and one of the assistants was Fran Dunphy. So they knew him really well. He had just gotten the job at Temple. He was looking for a young guy. And they said to me, you need to go up to Philly and be a part of what he's doing, and you'll understand later. They said how great Coach Dunphy was, how great of a brand Temple was, and how great of an opportunity this was, and then how special the Philadelphia community was. And I didn't get it. I was like, wait, I'm 23 and I'm hanging out and I'm having a great time, and this is awesome. Why would I leave? And when I got there and I finally took the job, I understood quickly that I was with a special person. Coach Dunphy is he's a unicorn when it comes to terms of people. He's got a great heart. He's got a great vision. He cares, pushes people, tries to make places better than they were before he arrived. He's a great coach. He's a better person. He's a great man. And I loved it because he gave me an amazing opportunity to find myself. And, I spent 8 years with him, 3 as operations. I left for 2 and came back for 5. But, he helped me kind of figure out my purpose in life and helped me figure out who I was and what I wanted to do. And it gave me a chance to impact kids. And, I think he helped me become accepted in a community in Philadelphia where a lot of times they throw people out that don't belong, but they welcome me with open arms.
I think Fran Dunphy's one of those guys that, you ask college basketball fans about the best coaches and, they'll rattle off the names we all know. And I feel like Dunphy's one of those just absolute stereotypical underrated, basketball geniuses that probably doesn't get the credit he does for spending so much time there in the Big Five region. But in terms of, did you know Fran Dunphy? Did you know what you were getting into in terms of that, the asset of knowledge that you were going to be able to sort of take from him, or what was kind of the point where you're like, okay, this is a special dude?
Not necessarily when I got there, because I knew of him at Penn, but when you get around him, you see how he works, you see how he was received by his peers, see how he was received in the business, and you started to realize this is a special thing. And then we start listening to what he's saying and how he's teaching. You start getting better for it, because the way he teaches the game through life in a lot of ways, or also life through basketball. And I think, much to what you just said, I think he is an individual that, like, if you look at, maybe like nationally, if you look at like the way fans voted, he may not be considered, one of the top 20 coaches in the country. If you ask coaches, he would be. If you ask people that are really invested in the game, they would be. And I think he's a coach's coach. He goes out and he makes people better, makes programs better, makes his players better. They compete, they're tough, they don't beat themselves. And no, I didn't know it when I got there, but, I knew it, when I started to kind of keep journals, I would kind of write in them. And once I started to kind of realize that I was filling journals up really, really fast, that means you're learning a lot really quickly. And I think I learned something from him every single day. And every time I'm around him to this day, if I talk to him, if I see him, I'm learning something from him. I think he's got it figured out pretty well, and he's been really successful for it. I think people define success so much by championships, but the impact that he's had on communities and players and people, I think it makes him a champion all the way through and through.
Where did the journal idea come from?
Great question. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just, you can only keep so much upstairs. Sure. So I just started to kind of keep it, and I would jot things down, write ideas. Things would come up, and every once in a while, we'd meet, and he'd like say, "Write this down," and you write it down. And a lot of times, I thought so much of what we were doing sometimes is like he was teaching us, like things were happening, and he was teaching us how to deal with it for our own self. And I get through situations now as a head coach, I think back to, what would Coach Dunphy do? And I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. So I don't think he ever got it wrong.
After 3 years there in Temple, you go to the D League, the old D League, for a year to monitor player development and progress. I guess just first, this is now your second job on the professional side.
Yeah.
Did you foresee that being a path? I mean, what got us out of Temple to here? And are you thinking maybe the NBA life is the way you want to go, or was this just an opportunity that you couldn't let get by?
Yeah, I think I was just, at that time I was really young. I just was in a hurry, wasn't really patient. And, Temple gave me everything that I needed, but I wanted something different. So I moved to New York and had a great opportunity to work in the league office. And, you're sitting in a meeting with David Stern, and you're talking about monetizing basketball. Got a chance to travel to China and do some really cool things and work on the NBA All-Star game in Dallas at the Cowboys Stadium right when it opened up. And, we were trying to grow the business of what was then the D League, now the G League. And some of the ideas that you see now were kind of thought of, and they were the brainchild of meetings way back then. And I think we're trying to figure out how to grow that business and make it like a really strong asset for the league and its franchises. But it was great, to be able to sit on that side of the table. And I think it's helped me now, because I can kind of think, okay, well, this is what administrators are trying to do. This is what organizations are trying to do. And it gives you a really unique perspective, because sometimes, there's some coaches, all they know is just college coaching or NBA coaching, but I've been able to be on each side of the table in a really unique way.
The next year you go to Boston University to be an assistant. Is that the impatience knocking again, where it's just 1 year and you're out, or what happened there?
No, I think, I really missed the locker room, missed the kids, missed the game. And I realized then I really wanted to coach. I mean, it was clear as day. So I was like, okay, how do I get this next opportunity? And, Pat Chambers offered me a chance to join his staff at Boston University. It was awesome. Got a chance to recruit, get on the court. And I think I was ready to do it then. I think sometimes you get in a rush to do things, but you're not really ready. Maybe you're not clear, maybe you're not as prepared. And I think it was perfect timing. It was awesome. I mean, we had a great run. Got a chance to work for a guy who was trying to market a program. We went from having 200 people in the building on night one and having 4,200 people in the building on the last night that we played, which is pretty cool. We won the league, went to the NCAA tournament. we did a really, really good job in that 10-month period, probably that we were there. And that became another crossroads in everybody's career when Pat got a chance to go to Penn State as a head coach, and I was offered an opportunity to go back to Temple as an assistant.
As an assistant now, you're a full-time assistant. You're not in the ops department. You're not at the boardroom. You are one of the three guys there. And how was that different for you? Just in terms of whether it's player relationships, obviously you're out on the road recruiting. Was it more fun? I mean, was it more fulfilling in a way that you felt like maybe you're a little more hands-on than maybe you had been prior?
Yeah, I mean, you got a chance to coach on the court in practice, you got a chance to recruit, got a chance to represent the program in a different way. You got a little bit, you get a chance to, make your mark, if you will, in a much different way. And I loved it. I loved every second of it. And, my goal always was, how do I make, Coach Stumpy gave me the opportunity over probably some guys that played there, that really wanted it. And I said, well, how do I make them proud? Got to recruit really good players. Got to work really hard and represent the program the right way. Got to help grow the program and got to help Coach Stumpy's mission. And I try that every single day. We did some good work. My last year we went to the NCAA tournament. He became Coach of the Year in the league. We recruited a couple all-league players. It was a really fun time there while we were there.
Any recruiting memories? I mean, the first time, your first time out on the road, now that you're finally out to go, anything that kind of stands out from that?
Yeah, I remember, the first time you go out there on the road, I mean, you're so excited to go. Right. Finally there, you got the polo on and all that. And I just remember being like, well, what do I wear? And I went to the mall and I just bought whatever Bruiser Flint wore, when he was coaching. And, I get out there on the road and I see Brew and I'm all proud. He's like, why are you trying to look like me? And, it was a good lesson because it was like, just be yourself, just be exactly who you are. And that's all you got to do. And I can remember riding around with Coach Stumpy and going to the gas station. He gave me the riot act because there's two gas stations. One's across the street and gas back then might have been $2. And on the other side of the street, it's $2.10. And I go to the one that's $2.10. And, the biggest lesson that he's always trying to give you is perspective and make sure you see things and you're paying attention. So I didn't pay good enough attention that day. So I heard about that all the way home. He always yelled at me for what I was listening to on the radio. So I had to listen to like Frank Sinatra and Jersey Boys on the way home, but it's all good. He deserved it. He earned it. He earned it.
Say I don't know what the rules are. And usually the driver controls the radio. When you're the head coach, I assume you get to control the radio too. There you go. What is the most important part as an assistant coach? What is the most important part of recruiting from your perspective?
I think identifying players that your head coach wants to coach. I think I learned that, working for Coach Stumpy and Coach Wojciechowski, you got to find guys that, fit the coach, that can respond to the coach, that are motivated by the coach, that fit kind of how they want to win. And I think the other part that what I learned over time was just trying to keep things off, the head coach's desk. There's big decisions that the head coach has to make. There's small decisions that assistant can make, how do we make sure that the kids are doing what they need to be doing every single day and moving in the right direction? And, tried really hard to make his job easier. There were things that he liked to try to make sure that whoever I was working for, make sure that they had what he needed to make his day more efficient. And, just make sure you're always thinking about the greater good. We used to have the saying when I was at Temple, it's never about you, it's about the team. And we used to talk about that a lot. And that was part of what we would kind of echo over and over.
Well, after a 6-year run there at Temple, you go to UConn with Kevin Ollie there. What'd you learn from Kevin?
Yeah, the pressure of the job is a lot. Talking about a guy that won the national championship the second year he was coaching. And he had a big, bright spotlight on him. And, he worked at it, and I think he cared about that place. And so much of what goes on is, you got to recruit the right kids. You got to make sure you figure out how you want to win and make sure the clarity of that. And I think, I think I learned there how important it is to invest in the community. I thought he did some really good things there. And then also making sure that, your administration, your AD and your coaching staff and your program are aligned and they have really healthy relationships. I think that gets out of whack, it makes our business just really hard. And I think you want to have a good time doing it. I'm thankful for Mark Benson and Vic Segles here at Albany because, we hang out, we get dinner, we laugh, we joke. The days we have to have hard conversations, it's easier because you're all kind of doing it together. You're really invested in making sure you're marching forward.
He got let go in 2018 and you got let go in the same time there, obviously. And I know that's always, I think, sort of the forgotten collateral damage a lot of times is when a head coach at any sport, any level gets let go, everybody beneath them generally is gone too. As someone who's, you're serving at his will and trying to do what you can for the program there, just how, and you've been in it for a little while at that point professionally, and 15 years or so, but how just uncertain is that time for you and your family when it's, you're at the mercy of a decision of someone else's career that's ultimately going to impact yours?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's tricky. I mean, I remember back in that moment, I just had my son, so I had two kids, at that point, and you go home and you're not sure where your career is taking you, and you got two kids and a wife, and you're trying to figure out like what's next. And Coach Dunphy used to always talk about it. It's kind of like when you start out in life, you just kind of keep going, climbing up, and then you take this dip. And I was in a dip and trying to figure out, how do you get back up and what's important? How quickly do you move? Which opportunity, I had some opportunities coming my way. Which one do you take? But I thought it gave me a chance to really figure out what was really important to me and my family. What did I want from this next opportunity? Where I was trying to go? Where was I willing to go? Probably is a better way to say it. But I think the business is tricky because, whoever you put in that room together on staff, you're all locked in together. I mean, you're a product of everybody's decisions. If you get a guy that didn't get himself prepared for practice or a scout or whatever, then that puts the team and the program in a deficiency standpoint. And when one person is let go, so obviously the head coach changes the course of action for everybody. It's really, really hard. But I learned a lot from that moment. And, I thought it gave my wife and I a chance to really focus on, okay, what do we want next? And where was I trying to go with my career? Sometimes you're just going, and you don't have some conversations that you need to have. So we kind of hit pause, picked our head up and got a game plan, and it's worked out pretty good.
Was there any point in the journey, and maybe at that point, where you thought maybe I need to find something else to do? Or what was basketball always going to be the muse that you were going to chase?
Yeah, I remember Ed Tapscott called me and said, this is kind of a moment for you to kind of talk about what you just said. And do you want to stay in college? Do you want to work in the NBA? Do you want to go into conference, work? Do you want to be maybe on the administrative side? Like, I was kind of at that age where it was like, are you doubling down or are you going left? And I remember JB Bickerstaff, who's the head coach of the Cavs now, is a good friend. He said, if this is the time you want to try to get into the NBA, I might have something for you. So I was kind of looking at that, but I said, I know what I want. I've invested all this time in it. I know exactly what I want now. I need to figure out, how is I going to get there? And I want to be a part of a really good program with a good head coach and good coaches that were going to make me better and challenge me. And I said, I want to get out of my comfort zone. And I wake up one day and I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, working at Marquette, but it was the best decision of my life.
You'd spent your whole life, basically your whole basketball life, aside from, your little detour to Charlotte there in the Northeast and, UConn, Philly, Massachusetts, and so on, to go to the Midwest and go to Marquette. How you speak of comfort zones, and we know all about, recruiting regions and, relationships, and sure you had all that stuff locked down. When you go to a place there, and obviously you're recruiting more on a national level, how does that change sort of your approach to the day-to-day from that recruiting standpoint and trying to build those new relationships?
Yeah, it really helped. I mean, I think.
Or was it a situation that Wojo wanted a Northeast guy to help in and you were able?
Yeah, I mean, I think he wanted a guy that, could recruit anywhere. Going to Marquette, I had to ask myself, can I go to the East Coast and sell this program and sell Coach Wojciechowski to Northeast kids? Obviously, we're in the Big East, and in my time there, we got a kid from Pennsylvania, a kid from Baltimore, Maryland, a kid from New York City, a kid from Syracuse, and another kid from Memphis, Tennessee. I think it's a special place. And I think I was able to kind of grow my ability to kind of recruit kids in a different way, and in terms of like selling a program that maybe wasn't necessarily in their path when you think about the Northeast Corridor. But obviously Wojo was an easy person to sell, had an unbelievable career, great success, had a great value system, a great program to sell, and kids saw opportunity and saw value in coming out there. So it was pretty cool. But I think it really helped me because it was a place that, under Dr. Lovell's leadership, the president of the school, and Bill Shaw, the AD, and Michael Brooker, the deputy AD, they really built the program on investing in people, not just players, but coaches, assistant coaches. And you got better there. I mean, they force you to get better there, and we challenge each other to get better. And, my 3 years there, 3 guys got head coaching jobs. I was 1, Stan Johnson was 2, and Brett Nelson was 3. Stan's at Loyola Marymount, Brett Nelson's at Holy Cross. We had really talented people there. I mean, like it was competitive. It was fun. I mean, we loved going to work with each other. We pushed each other. We challenged each other. It was a really good place, and it was probably the best career decision that I could make. But I think it goes back to what I said earlier, making sure you're aligned with your family. I mean, my wife actually said to me, I think Marquette's the place for you to go to. I think that's the place. And I'm thankful for her seeing that for me and seeing what that represented, because I wasn't sure. I mean, I was looking between 4 or 5 different places, but we got uncomfortable, went to Milwaukee, made some really good friends, had a really good time there.
How does recruiting change from, and maybe sort of what your attack method is, whether you're at a place like BU or Temple and UConn and Marquette, and you kind of go up? How does high level recruiting change from mid or low level recruiting, or does it?
I think the pace is what changes it. It's like, it moves so fast, at the high level, major level. I mean, you're coming in hot and heavy off a private jet, and, people are tweeting about it, and they know you're there, and the home visit, and the school visit. This level, it's a little quieter. But in the end of the day, it's about building relationships and trust with people, and they need to see the value and the opportunity that you present. And I think, at the other piece of it, it's like, hey, I was at Marquette and we're recruiting against, say, Villanova. Okay, we're going head to head with Jay Wright. Well, if we were going head to head against Jim Ferry at UMBC, let's say, Jim Ferry wants that kid just as bad as Jay Wright wants his kid. So it's just as competitive. It may be not as followed as heavily on social media, but everybody's working because they're trying to build their programs, and they want kids, and they're trying to really make sure you represent yourselves and selling yourself to families and communities and players the right way. So I think everybody's working at it, trying to find an edge.
Well, after that 2021 so fun COVID season for everybody, Albany's open, and that's the opportunity there. I guess first, did you ever interview for any other head coaching jobs, or was this the first one?
No, I had interviewed for a few, and have been through it, and I think when the Albany job came open, it seemed like a great fit. I mean, I grew up an hour and a half from here. It's a good sized city to have raised a family. I thought it was a really good program. I thought it was a really good community. My wife's from New York City. It's not far from here. I thought it was a perfect fit, and I was super excited when I saw that potentially I could get in the mix for the job. And then I knew Mark Vinson, a little bit, and really was impressed with him. And Vic Segles, the deputy AD, was impressed by him, and our president, Javier Rodriguez. I thought he was really dynamic. I thought he understood what basketball could do for a community and an institution. So it was a no-brainer to try to go after the job, and luckily they listened a little bit.
What did you learn from those earlier interviews, sitting in the room, that maybe you were able to apply and improve upon this time around with Albany?
I think at the beginning it was like, you're ready, for sure. I mean, you go through it and you're like, okay, you don't know what's going to be on the other side of that door when you walk in the first time. And I think I realized, okay, I feel confident about what I'm doing, but I think I learned like clarity of how you're going to do it. I think people want to have a clear vision of what your vision is. I think understanding, what you need to be successful, I think was a really big part to it. And, I think as you go through it a couple of times, getting the why the no came up. Okay, well, why didn't this fit? Okay, great. So now you get some feedback, you go work and you get better. And, luckily this all made sense. It was a really good fit for everybody involved.
Was almost a 2-decade journey. And then you get the call. When you get the call that you got the job, what was that moment like for you?
It was awesome. I felt like I had it. I mean, I felt like I was in a really good spot. My wife did too. So I think we were ready. Telling my daughter and seeing her cry because she's going to miss her friends, that wasn't fun. But then, it's like, yeah, okay, now I got to get to work. Like all these ideas now, we got to put these things to action. And some of those crazy things that you think make sense, you're going to find out they really make sense because you suggest them to your boss and they said no because they might know something that you don't know, but you get a chance to try it, get your shot. I couldn't sleep for days, and there's a couple of days I couldn't eat either. I was just so excited and eager to get here, but there was no better emotion, than coming down an escalator with your family and knowing you're about to, start a journey that you've been dreaming for a long time.
Well, Dwayne, last question for that 21, 22-year-old just getting out of school that wants to be a Division I head coach someday. What is the one piece of advice that you could give them to try to help them fulfill that journey, which may take a while to get there, but they can ultimately fulfill?
I think most importantly, patience is really key. I mean, be patient. Don't be in a rush. Find really good situations with really good people. And, don't be scared to write somebody, email somebody, Zoom with somebody, invite somebody to lunch or to dinner, exhaust any opportunity you have to get in the gym. And when you start on this journey and you get with a staff, it's hard to get in gyms, so learn from people, take notes, jump on Zooms and collaborate with people, try to network best you can. And you never know when somebody's watching you. I think that's probably one of the lessons that I've learned is that, there's been people that have watched me and said, hey, that guy would be great for you because, and you just don't realize that you're walking in the gym, putting on a good pair of pants or shorts and clean polo and, stand up tall and making sure you're always representing yourself in the place that you work at because somebody eventually needs to take a chance on you. And I think, the other thing that I'd say is there's so much information out there. And I think, sometimes I think guys, wait for the opportunity to figure out what they need to do, where you can get a lot of the answers out there on podcasts, on Zooms and stuff on social media. Get better, like just work at it, make time for yourself. And if you're at a high school job or a college job, make time for you to get better at interviewing if you're not great at it. Get time for you to be really good on zone defense if you're not good at it. So that way you can be well-rounded. So when you get your opportunity, you can knock it out the park. Because you don't get a lot of them. When you get them, you got to get it right.